Okay. Welcome to Poets and Pints number 84. Yes, we've been going since February of 2015, and we've missed a few months, so I can't say solidly, but for the most part, every month. My name's Tony Placido, and I'm your host this evening. Got a couple of fans in the audience. That's good. That's good. I am a local author as well as a host. If you need a host for your show, please call me. I'm a little addicted. What I like to do at these shows is start it out with a poem from a poet you might not know. And this is a poet named Iris Applequist. It is a friend of mine from Kansas City. And this is from her book, Myhre. It's a piece called Postscript. I like it better when you are a figment or a dream and hold less sway over how I cope with living. It is as if the if were still an active factor, as sad as that is, and the illustration of us demands an uppercase sort of attention when all it gets is this. I like it better when you were never real and could not form words or thoughts of your own. I like it better when we are strangers, secretly enemies, not lovers, not anything. So tonight we have an amazing lineup. We have Charlie Curry, who is selling his book that is called That Which Is Near for $19, because he's weird. And Kyle Tran, is it Myhre? Yeah. Kyle Tran Myhre, otherwise known as Guante, selling his new book for $15. So you can see one is trying to rip you off, and one is not. Just kidding, Charlie. But there later, actually, no, Charlie's going to be first. So I'm going to read his bio now. It's like I've never done this before. Charlie Curry, or Charles Patterson Curry, if you're nasty, grew up in university towns where he found his earliest material. His parents encouraged the love of language along with spirited dinner table discussions. After earning his MBA at the University of Michigan, he was a business consultant and instructor for decades. He left the corporate world for the nonprofit one, earning an MAR along the way. He's currently the financial officer of the Minnesota Multi-Faith Network, not face. Charlie is the original member of Nerve Poets, a writing group that existed for over 15 years. His work has appeared in the Martin Lake Journal, St. Paul Almanac, The Herald, Minnesota Zoo Tracts, and EngagedMinnesota.com, The Moccasin, and Conundrum Engine Literary Review. Cool. He received several prizes from the League of Minnesota Poet Contest and the first prize in the Dakota County, Minnesota Library Poetry Contest. This is his first book. Everybody, please put your hands together for Charlie Curry. You'll get there.
A lot easier than it was a couple of years ago. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. The book, I might say, is a gift from my kids. So it's published by Progeny Press. And I'm going to read a few from that, and then one that's a brand new one. I'll give you this one is the book title poem. That Which Is Near. A bite-sized watcher in a blue jacket, stubby fingers spread flat on the glass that keeps us all safe from tigers. It's not a kitty, dear. A learning walker watches his red and blue shoes, picks each foot up and puts it down in front of the other. Isn't this great? And the ants in a line right at the front of his toes. A toddler in her stroller fingertips just bigger than the holes in Cheerios she pushes around her tray. A boy the size of 2 raccoons races from one animal to the next, singing out, "Oh no, not again," with each encounter. In summer, expeditions of strollers, bags, water bottles, spare teddy bears, over-prepared grandparents tackle the long outdoor trails to the farm, their charges on the lookout for turtles and leftover puddles. In winter, what beast is more compelling than green snowmelt crunching under boots, or the round hole in a sidewalk brick, sometimes empty, sometimes filled with snow, or ice made lacy by white salt rime along the walk's edge? And one girl in a big pink sweatshirt, 2 long sleeves, ends damp from chewing, leans toward her nap on the way out. And in honor of last month, sort of, April. And this was written several years ago, so it sort of indicates, I like to review this every once in a while because it does indicate that what we experienced this past April ain't that uncommon. April. Yesterday, geese paced impatient along the line between ice and dark circles promising water open soon. Last night, it was all undone. 6 inches of new snow resurfaced the pond and everything else. Today, the promise is buried. One goose blats its complaints, everywhere high stepping through drifts, his breast a feathered plow, scooping a path as he seeks what was lost. And in honor of spring, I think spring's here. Do you think spring's here? Find out. Or did we skip it and go directly to summer? Right. This is called maintenance. It has an epigram. Every system is perfectly aligned to get the results it gets. This is W. Edwards Deming, for those of you who might know who he was. It's spring again. And again, our lawn is a blanket of lowered expectations. Just green enough to calm the neighbors. Not so much what we want, but what we have. Years of unresolved coordination bequeath swaths of clover, inattentive weed control, dandelions, and plantain. When summer heat arrives, already meager grass thins further, prostrate spurge, bird's foot, trefoil, squat like small regrets, dense enough to cover the bare gray dust, rooted enough to keep soil in place. Not what we want, but what we have. But right now it's spring. Buds are puffed up to burst. Everything is in hypergrowth. Another chance to concede. Perfection is an aspiration. Like touched up photos in seed catalogs. The earth is soft underfoot. There is time for us to clear the worst offenders out before heat pancakes the soil and seizes the roots. It won't take long if we work together. Dandelions, plantain, trefoil, splurge, tangled holders of the soil, we thank you for your service, for teaching us diligence, patience, and the joy of letting the past be in the past, and how you helped us take pleasure in lawn care done mutually. We are grateful, even as we dig you out and vow to keep you at bay. This one is a bit older, from back in my consultant days, whatever those were. And the consultant is the person that borrows your watch to tell you what time it is, and then he keeps the watch. All right. To and from a dinner of hard-shelled crabs, Wilmington, Delaware. In the thinning days of summer, when locusts are still unaware, I walk past old women, rocking separately on parallel porches, high, hard voices caroming zigzag up and down the block. Politics, police scanners, lost or hopeless men, shoulds and oughts, do not slow time's unkind march. Nights creep over days, no longer time for love, too late for happiness. Returning under rose sulfur light, clouds fronting ink skies, crab boil jammed in my cuticles, singing on my lips. The porches are silent. The women cocooned, each behind her own door, silent. One cricket asks, why did you stay? Why did you go? And this is one about an old friend, a story about Earl. Earl moves in today. We tell stories about him to the punctuation of coffee perking behind us. Innumerable stories, the best set aside in his family's care. Earl moves in today. This small neighborhood, a handful of last names scattered together by random, although it was not. A cornfield rattles under fall's blue sky, a baseball diamond quiet until spring. 2 blocks over, children bounce rubber balls on black top. Recess. Earl moves in today. His hands folded on his chest are square, short, thick fingers. Short, wide palms, sifted dirt in prayer, rounded fingers, worn down like his tractor, like his overalls. Hard work shows after this long time. No shame. This is my story about Earl. His patinaed hand, shy, reaches to greet me, and I wrote a poem about Earl, about shaking hands with Earl. It was one of the things that we've been doing lately is trying to figure out what to do with all the collected stuff of several generations. And one of the things we've run across is some paintings that were done by my great-grandmother, who at the age of, I don't know, maybe 15, 16, went off from an Iowa farm and got an art degree somewhere, and then spent the rest of her life back in Iowa painting and promoting art in her small community. And I found out also that my grandmother did basically the same thing, only her choice was music. At about 16, she went off all by herself to Northwestern University and got a music degree and came back to that same small town and taught music for decades and decades. And this is for her. My grandmother was firm in her opinions, shall we say, about the music. All I wanted was yes. Jazz is music, after all, and good music at that. And even though every note isn't written down, and even though every performance isn't the same, it still takes the same imagination and skill and courage. You said, my 3 did it all 200 years before yours drew his first breath. That's the way it was for a long time. Those long attempts to convince you your music was not the only music, my Brubeck against your Bach and Beethoven and Brahms. My world was still forming, unmodulated, a tune played differently every time. Your world was classic, symmetrical, ordered. Grandchildren are no reason to change that. Then I got your letter confessing tradition, not analysis, had influenced you. It was another time and another subject altogether. I thought I heard a saxophone singing the spaces between words. And even now, even that time, so long ago, I can't remember the exact notes, although I still have the words and the spaces. Jazz resolution to a classic fugue. I miss you like that. Sometimes. I am blessed like that sometimes. Thank you. And this is a brand new one, and a bit different in tone. It's got an epigram as well. A friend at Ilya Kaminsky said, Putin's come and go. If you want to help, send poems. How to help? Send poems. An ode to a small girl singing a big song, a ballad for subway tunnels. Scatter 100, no, 1,000 love sonnets across Odessa. Add a practical poem wrapped around a drone downing can of tomatoes and another around sandwiches and prayers. At the entrance to a mobile kitchen, hang a psalm in a prominent place. Write rough metered laments for burned vineyards, looted museums, punctuate them with tears. Funny limericks are good, bawdy ones too, and don't forget a defiant acrostic. Connect all the poets you know and start a peace ranga with verses too numerous to count. There are so many ruined walls that demand a defiant rap. Send those too. Write an epic for the ghost of Kiev, as mythical, as brave as Joe Magarac. An elegy for apartments, bombed out homes. Embed tank coordinates in free verse, blank verse, villanelles, haiku, quatrains, whatever it takes. Write poems in the shape of a suitcase rolling away from Mariupol toward Moldova. Put them in envelopes with tickets for safe passage out now, back later. And one final, just to say, so that this isn't end in such a dark note, an actual haiku. And I know there are people who cannot stand these things, but here is one anyway. And we're tigers. As far as tigers are concerned, Frost's neighbor was right about fences.
Thank you very much.
One more time for Charlie. I forgot to mention at the top of the show that we are brought to you by Cracked Walnut, which is the local chapter, one of two local chapters of the League of Minnesota Poets. If you are interested in either of those organizations, Cracked Walnut is at crackedwalnut.com, and the League of Minnesota Poets is at mnpoets.org. So please look us up. It's a whole $25 a year to be a member and get lots of benefits. All right, let's move on to our next poet. Elissa Evenson. She's a 23-year-old female who's been writing poetry for roughly 10 years now. She would like to find a good poetry community to share and listen to others' work. Here. She doesn't have her work public or published, but she wants to change that. And you should. Everybody, please put your hands together for Alyssa Evenson.
This first one is called Car Crash Affair. Coasting along the surface, I cruise past trees shrouded in winter's breath. By chance, we meet again and talk long past the time we should have returned home. It's late at night, but I don't mind, for my festivities have kept me up. You started a fire in me. Together we feel the flames. They burn brighter and higher. Daydreaming about the cool embrace of bed, my mind begins to wander ahead of me. Late night adventures and home-cooked meals while you sang along to your favorite song. Without any sign or warning, the car pulls to the right and my body is thrown to the left. Without any explanation, you withdrew yourself from me, and messages slowed and visits halted. The wheels are skidding, slipping, sliding. You were leaving. A veil of white soars across my windshield, all in slow motion. It's the only color I see, white. You changed your mind and said, "This just isn't for you. The only color I want to see, brown, like your eyes." Now I'm sitting in the ditch, wondering how I ended up here. You left me without a word, leaving me to decipher the silence. Cruising too fast, I should have slowed as I hit that icy curve. If I had known, I would have shut you out and saved myself the heartbreak. If only I had been more careful. This one is hard to talk about, but I think it'll be good for me. I'm sorry for crying. This one is called That Summer. I wish I could forget that summer day with a bashful sun peeking out from soft gray clouds. I wish I could forget that deceiving game of hide and seek, hiding in the dark, holding my breath. I wish I could forget that damp basement with the blinds drawn tight and the distant hum of the water heater. I wish I could forget the pitch black corner pressed against the cold concrete wall with laundry hanging overhead. I wish I could forget the way I curled up with nowhere else left to run and just accepted my fate. I wish I could forget how he always found me first and danced around me, no matter how hard I tried to hide. I wish I could forget that summer, or the guilt that followed me for every summer after. And finally, a happy note. This one is called Chocolate One. Small, dusty hands grab at broken pieces of chalk. Illustrations litter the pavement. They draw suns and houses and green bushy trees. They draw swirls and squiggles and snakes. They draw boxes and challenge each other to hop between them. At the end of the day, when the sun is golden and the orange streetlights flicker on, they go home and wash the colorful dust from their tiny hands. During the night, a warm summer storm rolls in and washes the chalk away, leaving colorful streaks to dry. But the children don't mind. They come out and draw again, because nothing is meant to stay.
Keep it going. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. What other announcements? Oh yeah. Everybody, you don't have to do it now. You don't have to do it at all. But if you can, when you get home or later or whatever, go on YouTube, Poets and Pints, and subscribe. Then you can see all of our shows that we've done, since April of 2020. They're all on here. Hi. Okay. Moving on. Next in the lineup. Alice Paige is a trans woman, teaching artist, and storyteller living in St. Paul, Minnesota. Her writing focuses on topics like mythology and the transformative power of queer love. Her work can be found at Freeze Ray Poetry, Crab Fad Magazine, Coffin Bell, Vestarian, Button Poetry, Right About Now, where right is spelled like right, Luna Station Quarterly, and Take a Stand, Art Against Hate, a Raven Chronicles anthology. She is a digital pedagogical lab fellow and has her MFA in creative writing from Hamlin University. Everybody, please put your hands together. Alice Paige.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Cool. Let's get the energy up in here. So Alabama, Texas, and a shit ton of other states have been passing anti-trans bills. Fuck that shit. A curse on the trans panic defense. If my body is found in some dripping alley, a thing hidden amongst heap and unwont, its secrets strewn across the mist-covered concrete, let it become a weapon. Let my bones unravel and the marrow find its way to air. Let air become rust in the throat, a grinding thing to inhale. Let my teeth chatter from cracked face and find their mischievous ways under floorboards. I didn't do that. Allow my tongue to be burst to swallow, a strange bird wetting dead trees, stamping its taste bud talons as terrible omen. Cast my jawbone in iron and drop it into the Mississippi to mingle with the dough bones. They are of the same family. The water will bubble and leap. Place my heart in some courtroom. That is all. It will not do a thing besides sit and judge, sit and simmer. The lungs are more macabre. They will continue to inhale and exhale for a time in an angry rhythm. I think they will find someone who has crept into bedrooms to strangle. The stomach will turn to a thick acid. The stomach will become an arsonist. The stomach will burn down a fucking police station. The stomach will yell until it is nothing but gristle. The nails will be just nails. Sharp, jagged, holy things. The skin will stretch outward and burst into soft, ever-thrashing shrapnel. The eyes will tumble forward, seeing this unseeing, this unraveling, this reverse birth. This body will become a weapon, spreading out in every direction. This body will become a plague of teeth. This body will become an accretion disc of threatening sinew. They will try to burn this body, crush this body, drop this body in wells. They will bring men with fancy degrees to banish this body. They will bring men with badges to lock this body away, deny its soft clothes. They will bring judges to judge this body as worthy of decay. They will bring an audience. And this will be the time to begin. Prick middle finger and allow blood to drop out onto pavement. Clench teeth and let them know their teeth pain is felt. Their teeth pain is understood. Tell your chest that it is loved and it is welcome no matter the shape it takes. Apologize to thighs, shoulders, and hips as needed. Light a single candle in some space hidden away. Press palms to eyelids at the final moment of dying. This is when the body will turn to weapon. This is when the body will splutter like hunger flame. This is when the body will break and shred and shudder. This is how an audience is screamed apart. Final step, after all is done and quiet. Gently cut out the Adam's apple. It deserves softness. Bring it to a forest where the morning light has learned to just peek through the canopy. Set the Adam's apple down in a bed of autumn leaves. Sing it to sleep. All right, let's do some new shit.
New shit.
Thank you. Let's do some new shit.
New shit.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to do a queer love poem, and then we're going to get back to queer rage. It's called A Crown of Feathers. It's a whole bunch of sonnets shoved together. 1. A nightingale is celestial. Its songs carry iron-heavy prayers on its slick back to demand of every heavenly body. Listen. I always imagined Pluto is blue. It is not. Its surface is mottled grays and reds, but a place so cold and so named after the underworld, it must be blue. This is the year of missing friends, absent parents. I am 2 years sober. If a sparrow flies through a window, crosses a threshold to enter a home, it is an omen of death. This is the year I'm enamored with sparrows. The underside of their wing caught in the light of an open window. It must be a sketch of the universe, pale and desperate for flight. I trace your jawline back to where it meets your ear. This place too is a sketch of something sacred caught between heartbeats. I sob in your arms. I cannot stop myself from crawling into these poems. My head, 1,000 bird wings madly searching for escape. How does a cage catch fire so magnificently? Please forgive these poetic indulgences. Blue jays aren't blue. Their color is an optical illusion, a trick of the light. 2. My knuckles ache from the nightmares. Our apartment smells of honey, butternut squash, and coffee. What a blessing to be more than what others see us as, to be a trick of the light. Cardinals roll in ants, squash them up, rub themselves in their guts to soothe molting feathers. This becomes an addiction, the search for sedation. What a curse, to destroy the coolest water, to pull it apart in our frenzy to calm. May I never be the 2 red cardinal. May I never be the ant. We whisper this to each other in the dim reflection of parking ramp lights beaming outside our bedroom, a symptom of ants. You see, I pace when wounded. I wear a spot into the floor, a sweet migration in place. This started as a love poem. Perhaps if I pace in this poem enough, it will come back to that hope. I need to stop talking so much to my poems. It cannot carry nearly as much as a nightingale song. It cannot carry nearly as much as a person. 3. Every time you say, I love you, I try to believe it a little more. Your name, blue, over and over until it is not a trick of the light, until the light is not dying, until the bird cage and all its ash and soot is doused in cool water that requires nothing be gutted. Every sweet winged thing still alive. Your name, blue, caught in my throat, a window, butternut squash, coffee, and on our second date you call me honey. I keep finding your voice in my poems. Every queer nightmare burning cages is still carried in my knuckles. I bet birds are tired of being fucking omens in poems. 4. This is a bouquet of feathers for every manic flight I've ever been. I roll the tips of my fingers across your lips, a connection so intimate and so soft it seems fleeting, moments fading in their happening. There are days we cannot take back when, perhaps, we were closer to gutting than we would like to admit. I feel you sharpest when I'm most scared you will leave. You open the top button of your blue shirt after arriving home from work, invite desperate kisses in the soft place where your neck meets your collarbone. A hummingbird's wings weigh almost nothing at all. Our love is a lot like that. Sometimes I am almost nothing at all. Sometimes I am everything at once. I am most me when caught working beneath an open window, poem in mouth, bloody feathers all around. 5. Blue, the color of unfleeting love. Pluto and blue jays yearning to be felt. Let's get back to rage. And again, fuck any state passing those bills. Trans people deserve respect. Use whatever fucking bathroom we want. Includes Reagan's grave. Sorry, go on. Saint Rage. Another saint is gone. This one brilliantly performing in the night, mouth sweet as honey. I see them caught outside a bar just before a snowstorm. hair a frenzy, holy whiskey in hand, and I am again wearing bright, bright, bright red, adorned in fashionable blood, morning in the morning, head low, holy whiskey in hand, pushed against coffin-shaped mirrors, plagued by nights so full of laughter. Where have we all gone? I'm going to tattoo that on my chest, read it at every queer funeral. And another saint is gone, neon dreads, disability advocacy, 100 pain gasps. I'm refusing to be legislated out of existence. This saint believes that. I don't know that I do yet. Call me not saint. Call me patron saint of cockroach queers, 100 knuckle tattoos, lipstick stains in the morning. Morning again. Gasps of I love yous into your thighs before marching at a fresh protest. Patron saint of split lips and smoky eye. This refusal to die is holy. Patron saint of forget-me-nots. Patron saint of undying dykes. Queer liberation now, motherfuckers. Patron saint of I'm not going to fucking unalive myself yet. Patron saint of are you listening? Are you really listening? Don't fucking misgender me after the show. Patron saint of holy whiskey. Patron saint of sobriety, even when it kicks against the back of my throat. Patron saint of tired, dead saints. Patron saint of I miss you. Patron saint of not letting go. Patron saint of queer rage. Patron saint of queer rage. Patron saint of queer rage. And again, forget-me-nots. Thank you.
This is my new mic stand. One more time for Alice Paige. Okay. Now, next on our lineup, Tranmeri, aka Guante. Tranmeri, also known as Guante, is a poet, educator, activist based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His work explores the relationships between identity, power, and resistance, and he's performed everywhere from the United Nations to music festivals like Eau Claire's and Soundset to countless colleges, universities, conferences. He's also been part of 2 National Poetry Slam championship teams, given a TEDx talk, and published 2 books via Button Poetry, one of which is for sale over here tonight. So buy it, buy it, buy it, buy local art. Everybody, please put your hands together for Kyle Tranmeri.
Look, this is cool. It's the most unflattering angle. It's more important that things are documented. I'm a chronic over-preparer, and I've given myself permission tonight to not do that. And so, kind of see what happens. I love this space, though. I love that there's a bunch of people here on a Wednesday night to see poetry. I feel like that used to be a much more common thing here in the Twin Cities, and it's obviously because of the pandemic, but I think for other reasons too, it's been less and less common. So it just feels really good to be back in a space like this. It kind of reminds me of the Artist Quarter. Have you all ever been to the old Artist Quarter poetry slams? But yeah, so I'll just have a few pieces. There's an open mic after this, right?
Yeah. Break and then an open.
A break, okay. I won't take up too much of your time. So you're not supposed to like explain the thing, right? You're supposed to just do the thing and like wow people, but I like to explain it a little bit. The new book there's a conceit to it, in that it's technically poetry, I guess, but it's my work is prosy in the best of times, but it's also there's pictures, there's like literally the conceit is that there are 2 poets who are making their way across a moon. One of them is a robot, one of them is a person, but it doesn't really matter. But they're going from, it's a kind of a pre-industrial society, they're going from village to village across this moon. And so the book is actually made up of, in each village, there's like a community kind of fire, right? And people gather and they sing songs and they share poems. So some of the poems in the book are from one of the characters, and some of them are from people who just happen to live in the villages that they go to. And the whole idea is this like multi-vocal way of thinking about how communities respond to creeping authoritarianism. The stuff, not that anyone knows who I am, but the stuff that I'm most known for writing about is I write a lot about masculinity, and I write a lot about like whiteness and white supremacy and the idea of power and identity. And I wanted to do that still, but from a very, very different angle. And so again, this first piece that I'll share that's very short, in each village that they go to, before anyone does any poems, there's like an elder from the village comes up and just says a few words. And it's different in every village because every older person is different and has different things on their mind. This is the first one of those kind of little elder statements or blessings in the book. I just don't want my phone to ring. Before the performance begins, an elder addresses the people. Please remember, this doesn't end in a meaningful way. There's no tidy conclusion waiting for you on the other side. Think of this more like a circle. And we know that can be confusing. When we talk about circles, we're not saying you're going to see a bright blue eagle catch a black octopus on Tuesday, and then 30 years later see that same bright blue eagle catch that same black octopus. It's not a literal thing. But not everything that is real is literal. Not everything that isn't literal isn't real. Don't be angry at a story because it isn't a map. There is more than one way to share information, more than one way to navigate being lost. A circle is always breaking, never broken. Please remember that metaphors aren't always neat, linear mathematical equations. Please remember that the answer isn't the only valuable part of the process of asking a question, that the ending isn't the only part of the story we can draw meaning from. Please remember to pick up after yourselves. This is our community, after all. Please remember that words have power. Please remember to have fun. I like to kick that. I mean, that piece starts the book, and it's not like, I'm not trying to be self-deprecating. It's not like a great poem. It's not gonna like go viral on the internet. It's not gonna be published in the New Yorker. But it's an important poem for me because it kind of sets up where the book is going. That line, don't be angry at a story because it isn't a map. And how many problems can, at least in part, be traced back to people looking for maps and ignoring stories and not listening to stories, only being able to understand information from a particular angle. But yeah. In one of the villages that the characters go to, they visit a school. And this is one of the poems from that like scene. It's literally called Poem for the First Day of the Poetry Unit in Language Arts Class. Not everyone who studies the sky has to become a begoggled balloon pilot. Some just like looking at the clouds because they're pretty. Some are more concerned with weather patterns and their effect on crops. Some are just charting a course from point A to point B, a matter of routine. It is okay if you don't like poetry. I don't really like the sky. The sun gives me a migraine. Wind blows in my face. It snows on days I don't want it to snow. You will never find me in the gondola of a hot air balloon 1,000 paces from where I should be pacing. But language has made me weightless. If only for a moment, a poem like once or twice has guided me home. So I want to say something. I want to say something like, when your teacher makes you write a poem for class, don't think of it as an assignment. Think of it as an opportunity. But that's kind of corny. a lot of things that are true are kind of corny. This isn't a very good poem. I wrote it like yesterday. Yeah, it'd be better if it were better, but sometimes you see a stage and it's the sky waiting for you to scream something alive into it. So tell your story. Whether it rhymes or not, tell the truth. Whether it gets a good grade or not, poetry is not just about how elegantly we can put some words next to some other words. It's like, think of all the materials with which you would quilt a giant hot air balloon into being. The flags of 100 nations, the banners of 100 warriors, the baby blankets of 100 lost children. But no matter how beautiful or colorful or well constructed the balloon itself is, none of that makes it fly. In this class, we will, study how balloons work. We will read old maps, but your job is not to look up and imagine. Your job is to look down and laugh. Your job is not just to understand flight. It is to fly. Because you, I would imagine, are more than whatever container currently holds you, more than the scraps with which you have been sewn together. And the poem you will write does not have to be the first step on some illustrious career as a professional poet. The poem does not have to save anyone. The poem does not even have to be good. Let it be honest. And let that be enough. Let it say, this is who I am, and this is what I believe, and this is the community that I represent, and let that fill as much space as it can, rise off the ground and meet to the sky. The first poem I ever wrote was about the end of the world. And I'm old enough now to have lived through the end of a couple. And I don't remember the words, just a landscape for the dark cloud in me to rain on. Just the feeling of rising through that cloud. And for the first time, seeing the stars behind it. I don't remember the words, but I remember the light. And I've been walking in its direction ever since. Ooh, thank you. Yeah, I like that poem.
Me too.
No, just coming from the generation that I'm a part of, I remember we were talking about this 5 years ago. You put that poem up on YouTube and it has 100,000 views, and it has 500,000 views, and it has 1 million views. But like now, that kind of bubble has burst, and so now we're all just kind of in the same boat, just writing poems and reading poems, and like I think that's okay. It's an adjustment, but it's okay. There's a poem in here about a blacksmith, and I often think about this work as like being a blacksmith, like make something and hope that thing can be useful in the world in some type of way. And I hope a poem like that can be useful for the work that I do, like in schools, but then for when I'm not physically there too, I'll be community. So, I'll do a few more. This again, like I said before, a lot of the work that I do is more explicitly about like toxic masculinity. Like the work, like I'll go to a college and talk to like the football team about consent and healthy masculinity, or I'll go to high school and talk about like intro to like race and racial identity and like privilege and all that kind of stuff. And I have a lot of poems about that. With this book, I was challenging myself to like, how can you write about the stuff that's underneath that stuff and still be able to have it be part of this larger like arsenal or repertoire is probably a better word. But just come at it from a little bit different angle. And so this is a poem kind of about, again, the poem doesn't take place on our world, it takes place somewhere else. So it's kind of about not the pandemic, but a pandemic, and how much our pandemic experience has kind of intersected with that stuff that I usually write about masculinity, and about control and dominance and power. And it's called 10 Responses to the Proposal to Overcome the Current Plague by Challenging It to a Duel. The character in this book is extremely harried. That's the word, harried, all the time. So this is a poem born of that frustration. 1, sometimes you just have to say a thing out loud and everyone immediately hears how ridiculous it is. If that doesn't work, 2, were it truly possible to challenge this sickness to a duel, it is not. Know that I would volunteer. Pistols or knives or bare knuckle with the plague god, crown of mossy bone, black talons still stained with my siblings' rage would propel me to victory. Were victory possible? It is not. I say this only to validate your rage. I want this plan to work. It will not. 3, we make gods of what matters. Harvest is important, so a god is born. The sun, this moon, its many oceans, many gods warring and warling on. How sickness ascends from nightmare to spirit to deity. A laughing, deep green antlered owl sitting atop the world as it sinks below the horizon. What is made can be unmade. But can you unmake fire with your fists? Can you unmake sickness with only strength? 4, you have strength as a hero must. But remember, the same hammer that builds a house can be thrown at a stray cat. What if your hands became hammers? How would you change a bandage? How would you hold your children? 5, you have courage as a hero must, but is it courage to saunter smirking into a pit of snakes? Is it boldness to dance atop a tall tower during a lightning storm? Is it leadership to say, if in my fearlessness I die, then I die? When during a plague, the more accurate statement is, if in my fearlessness I kill, then I kill. 6, you question authority as a hero must. So when the village healer says the plague is serious, you say, of course she wants us to be afraid. That's how she makes her money. But when your boss, who makes his money off of your labor, says the plague is not serious, that we should all just get back to work like normal, your dueling pistol is suddenly empty. You muzzle the barking dogs inside you, stack their skulls in a shrine to the god of obedience. 7, after the plague took my sister, I punched the stone wall of her room so hard it shattered all the bones in my right hand. This is how the men in my family tell sad stories. We always add a little violence. I can be vulnerable as long as I look cool. Hat low at the funeral, back row of mourners leaving early to smoke or to sharpen a knife. This is how the men in my family mourn, like heroes. 8, I'm not here to tell you that no one should ever duel anyone or that there are no problems that violence can solve. It's like if a murderer threatens your family, yeah, take his head. Just note how quick we are to kill for our families, when so many of us will not make the smallest sacrifice to protect them, won't cover our faces during a plague, won't ask for help when we so clearly need it. Note how quick we are to die for some abstract notion of freedom when, it occurs to me, I don't know all the gods, but I've never heard of a god of freedom. We have a god of war, but not for the thing we're told everyone is fighting for. Like, we have a god of death, but not of mourning, of sadness, of letting go. A god of thunder, but not of rain. A god of courage, but not of care. A god of vengeance, but not of prevention. A god of plague, but not of dancing. A god of wrath, but not of reflection. We have patron deities for duelists, soldiers, hunters, thieves, assassins, all those professions for which chaos requires control, even if, especially if that control is an illusion, a thought, a prayer. 9, I'm not here to tell you that the plague is not our enemy, just that there are things we can learn from our enemies. We understand power as dominance, but when a plague is too dominant, too unstoppably bloodthirsty, it kills too quickly, cannot spread and burns itself out. We understand power as purity, but the most effective medicines often contain small traces of sickness in them. We understand power as individual, but plague is not a god. It is an unfathomably large number of unfathomably small creatures working together. We are as gods to them, and they annihilate us regularly. We understand power as control, but every plague is a harbinger of the next plague, a pattern we can't kill, can't control, but can use as a reason to adapt, to change, to grow. 10, brittle victory, soft survival. This is not a fight we can win with brute force. This is not a fight we can win. This is not a fight. This is a dance. And yes, a dance can be a battle, but never a duel, never to the death, instead to life, to the circle, to everyone we've lost, to everyone else still here, to all the gods and spirits we don't have names for. Looking at my watch, and my watch has been broken for a year and a half, and I've never fixed it. Who needs a watch these days? Is the timing okay? Can I do another?
Do one more.
Okay, cool. Should end on something. I don't know if I have anything I can end on. No, that's not true. I just wanted to do this one though. I won't talk about it. Probably should have done it first. But anyways.
Too late for that. It's a circle.
It's all good.
Rewind.
To the informants in the audience tonight. That's the title. And then the first line is also, to the informants in the audience tonight, welcome to a heaven that hates you. Memorize the joyful faces you will never touch. Compile that list of names to take back to your leering master, placed on the scale across from your soul. Welcome to a heaven you can only surveil. If these words are harsh, feel free to leave. Better yet, feel free to feel free, as easy as it is to forget that leash around your neck is only a metaphor. What if you slipped it? What if you stuffed your bloodhound snout with the scent of bonfire, of salty fried mushrooms, of bodies in motion, and collapsed your many-shadowed self back into one, because you were one once, untouched by any handler, reporting back to no one but that rhyme book under your mattress. You had a name, just one, that now feels like a song no one is in the mood to sing. Do you even remember it? Was all that lives in your mouth now the yelp and whine of obedience, the howl interrupted by a yank of that leash? We would sing with you if you could remind us the melody. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you were the bully. Most likely both. And you are not the first to witness suffering and survive by rationalizing it. To see a child starve and think her parents should have followed the rules. To see a man's entire life locked away and think it is a small price to pay for safety. You are not the first to sacrifice to the God of control, to say, they may hate me, but I am not evil, I am just doing my job. Neutral as a noose, as if one had to be evil to do evil. You are not the first to say, I just want to protect and serve my community. And then, out of the many thousands of ways one could truly do that, teacher, builder, healer, artist, farmer. Instead, pull chains like intestines from your belly, wrap them around your neighbor's wrist, around your own neck, around that tattered, empty balloon that used to be an imagination. You know you don't have to do this, right? To the informants in the audience tonight, these words are genuine, but they are also delivered without expectation, a courtesy you have not earned, but receive all the same. Because here, our scales weigh differently. Here, so many who have earned blood spill only paint. So many who have earned fire seek only respect. So many who have earned cutting the throat of the world want only to see their children grow up happy. Here, justice is not punishment or vengeance. It is our children growing up happy. So when you return to your master, when you tell him all that you witnessed tonight, watch his face. Let it tell you what justice is to him. Do you think there will be joy? Do you think there will be singing? Do you think if you tried to find some kind of heaven in that face, one you could attend without crashing, do you think you'd find it? Or will your formidable memory return to us this beautiful evening, this fire, like the last star in a dying universe, the last warmth in the emptiness you've earned? To the informants in the audience tonight, if you ever remember that song, you are welcome to sing. You are welcome to slip free of the chains, to howl and be lifted by 100 other howls. The pack you thought to betray, the pack that welcomes you home still.
I actually think that's a really good closing poem. I know you said you should have started with it, but I think that's a good closer, actually. So, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we are part of the League of Minnesota Poets, which is a nonprofit. So we live off of donations. If you have anything to put in here, great. If you don't, it is a free show. It will always be a free show. But we are going to go to break, take about 15 minutes or so, just to so that you have time to go buy each of Charlie's and Kyle's book. They'll be over here at the table, maybe signing them for you. And then we'll come back and we'll do some open mic. All right. It's online, though. You can watch it on Poets and Pints. There's a Poets and Pints YouTube channel. It's not required. You found your phone, actually, that's good.
Like I'm back to Shark Tank.
I'll take these all the place.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see a lot of people buying books. What's going on here? Okay.
My second and fourth one is you're looking for something that comes and they push the right more, share more. Marion Park Library. You want to send me one? Send me a text and you're going, then I heard. Yeah, my number 7. Anyway, I'm not. 5. So how much was that? Yeah, the second and fourth Wednesdays will be there. Third Wednesday we meet here. You've been writing, read something. And then the first Wednesday we're reading other texts like Mark's and other inspiration. First Wednesday, this Wednesday, I had the Why is an art museum? If you're interested in sending text, I would be happy to quick on my interest. We're also on Facebook.
I was gonna say, imagine trying to get a job at
You know,
you're always here. It's all up there. She got the it's great thinking about like you realize there's something
If you haven't had time.
talk about an icebreaker. It's an icebreaker because tears salt.
You gotta psych up for that.
It's a lot of
and you couldn't feel any focus at your
Turned into sheet music, and now it's all part of it. Very unique. The piece is over and over again. It's a conversation that the words that you say when you speak them, they just go out into the space. And it's like the chalk that you were writing that we were talking about there. You enter it, you make your impression, and then I like
And you come here, and it's like, I like it. I was thinking the name. Because it was the first time I was like, yeah. I got I'm wondering where the restroom is and where the sign-up sheet Nice to meet you too.
I see you on Facebook too.
Oh, that's true. I feel like I never used it. You really want to know the story? So, that was really interesting. I went to Colorado first because I was like, hey, you want to go to our house? Sure. It was like, exactly. I go out there and then we get laid off. The CEO was to alleviate the symptoms because my son is holy smoke and stuff. In board meetings, before he hired, he'd say, I don't know what this software is. And he can't tell the board meeting, he fired him. And I'm with him when he's like, well, I'm back. I'm going to go up to the cities and be a music producer. So I signed up with Alice. There's orientation. Hold on. With the orientation, well, I was like, oh, I was signing on if you really want. I was sitting there. I'm not going to do it. 3 months later, they're bankrupt. And I'm like,
That's CBA. I got a scholarship for CBA.
oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just like,
I feel that.
yeah, I was there. I actually met people. We were having a class. There's even like a dude who was like in the middle there, and I'm like, oh, seriously, we're talking about this. I was like, everything was just lights, flashy, happy. Somebody had to know. And they just wanted to act like they wanted to get this money from these loan people. So I didn't see color. So that was. Yeah, my friends after that, I still moved up to the city. I know it really is. Yeah, that's literally how it felt. Like it was insane. I was like meeting people, which is like my immediate reaction was I just planned a party. First thing on my head, just there is. She goes to the I sell shit. Oh, yeah, shit. Like, you went on this team for like 3 minutes. And I'm like, wait, it's not. No, you know, it's not bad. Okay. Well, I'm gonna be I hear this is
Usually we have 6 people sign up because you only read 3 poems, so you're actually a little bit ahead. So for now, I'm gonna do
If there's space.
I think it's ingenious. I can write crap.
I don't know what it is about it. I had so much to say when I was younger, but now I feel like I've said it all. And no one was listening. Figuring this stuff out fine. Once I've done this graduation, get the career out of the way. I can put the family on the side and right models and influence. Okay. Stop.
But it was, you know,
You say, well, round,
square.
we're brothers. Yeah.
You knew it was good enough that you was.
This is Minneapolis. I grew up here, and that was in the 20th century. Yeah. I think for millennials, it's always been year zero.
It's gonna have to be like, that's why I have to be like these. Yeah. So it was like, you know, it was like 500 messages, like every day. So when we start, we'll just start doing
I think it's kids that'll they'll just steal the keys out of our wallets and our pockets and they'll start throwing things around. I think it's up to us to get their bicycles and chase them. Like some bad 80s models.
Yeah, I would hide it. Okay. I'm cool with it. I love The Simpsons so much that I thought every 2 episodes were video versus all the other episodes. That's my thing. Right now, they're just
I think the thing that cracks me up about the Treehouse of Horror episodes is they're supposed to be spoofing masters, and yet somehow they occasionally
they have the great skits. It's just like you don't understand. You can make it flip something.
Yeah.
So you might do the second. I didn't know when you
Hey!
My friend showed me The Simpsons, so I watched like all these episodes. I've been alive for 20-something years. I don't think you need to catch up.
I think my favorite one is the one where he tries to like.
How's everybody doing? That's good. That's good to hear. I'm glad everybody's having a good time on a Wednesday night. Yes, it's Wednesday. All right, so the open mic we do in a random order, so, because I always think it's funny when people put their name like on the 5th line, because it doesn't matter. Myhre. Give me a number between 1 and 6.
7. Or, sorry.
Great number!
I'm so sorry.
You made me wonder if I said the wrong thing.
Tricky like that. 2.
2. It's poetry.
Yes, thank you.
Well, 2 is Nathan. Nathan, do you want to wait till she gets back?
Spoken word.
Oh, there she is. All right, Nathan. Okay, remember the rule for the open mic is 1 poem, 2 minutes or less. Thanks.
So I wrote one line of this poem about 2 years ago, and I sat on it, and I wrote the rest just recently.
I bet it was warm.
It just hatched. Okay. This is called The Big Questions, a soliloquy. Ever since the trauma of my birth, I've never been the same. I blame it on the air, or the sky, or the endless tasks and shame and the aroma of a life destined to die. It could be the endless questions on my worth that always come first before a value can be determined. Or maybe it was that sermon I listened to as a child on how vile humanity could be, and I believed it since I was told to. If that makes you wince, then we can cry together that death is in fact final. But if you resign to that, then it somehow makes it fine, maybe preferred. Not that we were ever deterred from living. It was thrust upon me, unlike greatness, which I had to conjure from scratch. Just never finalized the recipe. But where was I? These thoughts that rest in the nest but rarely hatch are about a purpose for this circus before we send in the clowns, though I suppose we're all already here. So just crack open another beer. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune being what they are, it's best to at least have a buzz while we learn what portion of this life is reserved for a bit of living. And the rest? For now, it's for the schedulers, the hourly tasks, the labor, and then, of course, to sleep, and perchance to dream. Thank you.
Okay, I gotta stop doing that.
I feel less bad now.
Brand new mic stand, I'm gonna break it today.
Break it in.
That's one way to look at it. Charlie, give me number 1 through 5.
3 to that too.
Eric. All the way to the stage. All the way to the stage, even though it took a long way. All the way to the stage.
Yeah, so I'm Eric. I have other names, E, Halil, Jacko, Dai, but I mostly go by Eric. The poem I'm presenting tonight is called A Softened Statue. And I've been kind of debating, do I speak to it or just kind of say it? And I chose kind of the short version here. It's an experience that happened to me in real life, and it takes place over about 30 seconds. And more broadly speaking, it's about a philosophy of a lot of leaders in peace who like to focus on moving away from force and aggression and seeing the importance of nonviolence and empathy and compassion and stuff. So, here we go. I stand alone, creased brow, pressed back shoulders, vigilant, a hard, jagged statue. When a fragile hand seeking embrace clenches my fingers, behind feathery bangs, teary eyes look for comfort. Immediately and without control, my masculine posture cracks all over, and I soften back to clay. My voice grows tender. I breathe easy, feel lighter. I was not ready for this. I was ready for war. I could have charged in the battle and been bloodied and beaten. But this little girl, her gentle hand disarmed my guard, breaking apart the ferocity of man. Thank you.
Alyssa, number 1 through 4.
1.
At least you didn't say 7. Ashley.
So Tony informed me that he put me on the list. And I put myself on the list.
That's what I call a baller move.
So here's what I can find. This is called funeral arrangements. When I die, bury me with bulbs of white tulips or hyacinth. Line my casket with poems. I'm bringing words into my next life. Maybe I'll return as something poetic, like a hummingbird, or a fistful of feathers, or a flake of ash floating on the wind. Or I will remain in my poem bed, arm hooked around the plants, a discontented look on my face. I have work to do. Give me my green teacup. I will curl my cold fingers around it and feel the kind of warmth one feels when holding hands with a new love. It doesn't burn, it softens and glows the skin pink again.
See, everyone's happy to put you on the list. Kyle, give me number 1 through 3.
3.
Michael Dean.
Yo!
I'm just going to share some random Facebook posts in my Martin Lake Journal Facebook group. First post. Do poets in disproportionate numbers own cats?
Yes.
It seems to me it does. Really. Communication at the drive-thru. Hi, 686. Me, no, 007. Did you all know Johnny Cash's A Boy Named Sue is a poem by Shel Silverstein? Artists and subjects. Who anywhere has first loved the subject? You will say yes, but that is a lie. Everyone says they can't paint. I am not an artist, they say. That too is a lie. Everyone draws, paints. Everyone loves the painting first. Subjects tired from posing rarely get relief. One more, Tony?
Sure.
Spring morning. Come slowly, firmly, full bloomed. Bushes, trees, stems, leaves, bright blood, blue eyes, citruses, tipped, flirting, not storming, not moving quickly on. Come bud by bud, petal by petal, my window full of you, slow cooked nights, simmering perfumery. Come slowly, firmly, full bloomed. One more shorty. Heartfeet. Proxies for actual heart, like fingers pressed to wind, like palms curving bark. Push core heat, pull skin ice. Galactic hikers descend to bright, climb to dark, cut to clear. Tread lightly edges, quiet back to start. Grayish dawn in sight. Come to bower. Power thickens. Love's gray steps. Carry me long. Lose the miles. Tide the waters.
Alice, I have a very important question. 1 or 2?
7 solidarity. Yes.
Son of a bitch! 2. Quattro.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? Fantastic. Hopefully. Wonderful. Well, I usually like to come performance ready, but this evening I had no idea what I was going to do, and I pretty much still don't. But actually, I was feeling you this evening, so I think what I'll try to do is pull out my very first writing that I ever had that, like, when I got done, I was like, all right, that's what I meant to say, which is a really powerful thing if you like it, you know. Anyway, so, bless you. What's that?
I am blessed.
Word. Dig it. Okay, so, all right. Hopefully, I don't fuck this up. In a place nobody knows, entrenched in cold with no relief, disgraced and a bit unsown from little known secrets that I keep. And if I seem a bit hollow, it's all these problems following me that I can't seem to get around nor dig out ground from underneath. And so the breast pressure builds up fast and long outlasts these sacks of weed. And better men than I've ever been have just given in to the grief. Because for years I didn't have Shelly's on my packs of cigarettes. I was filled with heroin or speed because I was in need of mind-altering effects. But I don't do that shit no more. Really, I left behind the messes on that journey for some peace or at least shelter from the stresses. Because when it rains, it pours. And I'm in pain and sorely adjusting. But if I never shut my mouth and get up, get out, I just might fucking get me something. You're gonna hit the ground before you know. Yeah. And when you're 10 miles high, it's gonna hurt even more. Cause life just ain't fair to rare people like we, man. I swear that I can spare with no room to bleed. I got my girl knocked up at the age 16. 10 years later, still rolling 6 deep. A hard decade of toil and grief, no release. Working like a slave all day. Hey, this ain't no 9 to 5. We're striving to survive and to keep hope alive for the ones that I love and with whom I reside. But through it all, it's still just you and me.
Mike S.
This poem was inspired by a dream. It's called Good Medicine. Black elk comes to me at midnight, blue Nakota horse, in full winter coat, thick, heavy, and unruly. His smoky exhale condenses on my cheek and whispers. The vapor clings to pale skin reddened by the wind and falls like salty tears to earth. His sadness permeates everything, including me. The ponderosa pine and quaking aspen feel his presence in their bones, for they remember when he and his ancestors wandered here before the Washichu came to take it all away. The horse nudges me to climb aboard, and we ride to a dark cave where he stops abruptly and tells me my wounds are waiting inside the cave. He knows this because his wounds once lived here, and we are now brothers through our shared suffering. It's his duty to help me heal and my duty to remember our shared humanity, so I may transform pain into love and teach others to do the same. I enter the cave, alone, and sounds of voices from the past shiver, every wound received, every condition revealed. The further I move in, they laugh, mock, and hit me with coup sticks. Demons wearing reactionary masks in various states, rage, self-hate, doubt, fear, lust, pride, and self-pity surround me until the screams fade. I arrive at the back of the cave. Black elk kneels in silence by a small fire. Sit a while, he says, smiling. Share this pipe with me, and when you awake, you'll be home.
Is Terry still here? No, oh, you wanted to get put on. What was your name?
Peter?
Peter?
Yep.
You're next.
Thank you, everyone. It's a privilege to be here. I want to say it's been amazing hearing all of the work that you have done, and I'm clearly in the presence of literary masters.
Aw, shucks.
So, homework assignment for those that don't know, I recommend looking up the poem by Emma Lazarus about the new Colossus, because this one is kind of a response poem to that one, even though it was written 150 years ago. This one's called The American Colossus. A rusted woman of fabled fame stands with her back against the land, whose promises and dreams so grand lie behind sunset gates, whose flame is the trembled flicker, and her name rejecter of exiles. From her beacon hand spies worldwide suspicion, her cold eyes command the razor wire wall of callous blame. Keep ancient lands, your worthless serfs, cries she. Give me your rich, first class enter the door. You gilded few with wealth and profits see the riches and resources of our teeming shore. Send these, the pampered, aristocratic, to me, concerned not over the pauper or poor.
What was your name? Mugu? Mugu. Mugu.
All right. So this is a poem about an incident that happened when I was a child, about a 9-year-old, and I'm also proud to say that this poem got published in the Boston Literary Magazine in 2020. So this is the first time me reading it in a live environment. Hope it goes well. Where is my room? Everyone had a room except me. Their laughter bounced off the corrugated cardboard walls, rolled on the balsa wood floors, and besieged the thin metal gates of that model of our soon-to-be home. Even the fake Myhre, with its orange plastic flowers and fern-like leaves, who also had a spot on the dark green grass mat, couldn't stop snickering. What was funny about a simple, "Where is my room?" It was beyond the mental fences of a 9-year-old. The architect took a red marker, whose felted bled pity, and drew a small square on the second level, and in one stroke made me belong, at least in that model, or perhaps soon to be home. I never lived in that room, never got to put up posters of Maradona, Tendulkar, or A.R. Rahman on teal-painted concrete walls. My copies of Advanced Calculus and Oliver's Story never lay open on that brown mosaic tiled floor. I bought a home with rooms for everyone. There are real succulents and orchids and peace lilies. The walls are covered in discounted art from Pier 1 imports. The silent hardwood floor holds each of us and all that we carry. This is home now. Yet, I still sometimes wonder, where is my room? Thank you.
All right, we'll close out with some new shit.
New shit.
This is my poem called Divergent, written this week. My mind is a rail system. If you happen to be going where I'm going, then we'll get to some point together, we'll find our destination. But if you steer into the side of a train, it's going to hurt. The train doesn't mean harm, but it's going to hurt. I want to apologize for my lack of flexibility, but it wouldn't be sincere. No amount of stretching or exercise will improve this system. A train will always be a train. I'm not without accountability. I can feel regret, remorse, remission, reinforcement. It just won't be immediate. It won't be vibrant or obvious. It usually comes at me sideways and hurts for it. I wish I wasn't such an adventure when addressing the mundane. That's not to say I wish I was different. It's just to say that I love when we can ride the rails together. All right, let's keep it going. 1 for Charlie Curry. Alyssa Evenson. Alice Paige. Tran Myhre. And all of you wonderful open micers. This has been Poets and Pints number 84, which means next month is 85. Holy shit. Anyway, I just wanted to end it with holy shit. Okay, goodbye.